Hi guys, welcome back to In Case of Econ Struggles. Today I'm going to talk about AP Macro. I'm going to do a Unit 2 review, so sort of just a brief overview of all the concepts in Unit 2. This is the order I'm going to talk about those topics in. Timestamps are below if you would like to jump to a specific section, but let's go ahead and get right into it and let me know in the comments which unit I should do next. Now, before I jump into the first topic, what I want to talk about is sort of the central questions that we're asking in this unit. And so we're basically trying to assess three different questions. The first is how GDP changes over time. The second is sort of differences between real and nominal variables. And this is going to come up again and again when we talk about stuff like monetary policy and money and assets, as well as just in general in macro, real and nominal comes up all the time. Then we're going to talk about what macroeconomic factors change when GDP changes. So if you keep these three questions in mind, I think it'll really help you to sort of understand and conceptualize what we're trying to do in Unit 2. And so I want to start with how does GDP change over time. So what we've got is we've got this graph here. We've got time on the x-axis, and we've got GDP, also called y, on the y-axis. Now with GDP, you can sort of think of it as we have both a potential GDP and an actual GDP. Where by actual GDP, I mean this is what GDP is in any given time period with this red line here. Now, of course, if we were to think about, well, what would GDP be if we had full employment, if everyone's working, if we're just cranking our economy sort of at its full potential, then we would have what we call potential or full employment output. And so we're going to call that Y bar, and that's going to be a standard level here. Could change over time. Generally, people think it goes up over time. But for this example, for this graph, I'm just going to make it flat. And so now let's think about this graph and sort of divvy up this graph into different sections. So first what we're going to say is, well, if this is my potential output, this is my actual output, then what we can say is that the difference between actual and potential is what we call an output gap. And so here in this example, our output gap is positive, and so we're in an expansion because it's rising, because we're above our potential output. On the other hand, if I measure the output gap sort of here at this recession, then what we've got is we've got that our actual output is below our potential output. Now, if I think about what's happening, sort of expansions are where GDP is going up, recessions are where GDP is falling. When we change from an expansion to a recession, we call that a peak. So these two things are peaks. And when we change from a recession to an expansion, we are going to call that a trough, so I've got one trough down here. So again, this is just the basics of how to read this graph, which is topic 2.7. Now, when we think about other macroeconomic factors that change with GDP, there are two main factors that we sort of think about. The first is inflation, and so we call that cyclical, and the reason it's cyclical is because that's going to change in the same direction as GDP changes. So when GDP increases, inflation is also going to increase, and when GDP is decreasing, inflation generally also decreases. Now, unemployment, or the amount of people that are not employed, that's going to be what we call countercyclical, because that's going to change in the opposite direction as GDP. So if we think about when GDP is going up, well, if GDP is going up, then more people should be employed, and so the amount of people that are not employed should be going down, and so unemployment is falling. Now, when GDP starts to fall, more and more people tend to start losing their job. If less people are employed, then more people are unemployed, so we would expect the unemployment rate to go up. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's just really quickly talk about nominal versus real, especially because we just talked about inflation. So when we think about nominal variables in macroeconomics, we're going to say nominal just depends on prices, and so it's going to be subject to inflation, whereas real variables are going to be net of inflation, and they're not going to depend on prices. So just as a really basic example of the difference between nominal and real, let's say that you're measuring, I don't know, the GDP of your lemonade stand in your local neighborhood. So maybe in 2023, that lemonade stand, you watch them every day, and they sold 100 lemonades. And in 2024, they only sold 90 lemonades. And so if I were to ask you, well, how did the amount of lemonades that this lemonade stand produced change between 2023 and 2024? You would say, well, it fell because it was at 100 and it dropped down to 90. So that the real output in terms of lemonades of this lemonade stand fell. Now let's think about how we calculate the nominal GDP, or the nominal output of this lemonade stand. Well, if we were to do that, then we need to include prices. So in 2023, if they're charging $2 a lemonade, well, now the revenue is $200, and so their nominal output is $200. In 2024, maybe they charged $3, and so there was some inflation in the price of lemonade. So in 2024, the revenue was $270. So now if you look at their nominal output, it looks like their nominal output actually went up, or their nominal GDP increased, but that's because prices went up. And so if you want to look at the difference between real and nominal, again, here with this real output, we're not including prices, or you can think about it as sort of we're keeping prices the same. And so we see a fall in real output, even though nominal output, with inflation, we saw an increase in nominal output. Okay, so if that doesn't make any sense or you need a clarification, feel free to put that in the comment section below. But this is the difference sort of between nominal and real GDP and how it works. Now, one important definition that you're definitely going to need to know for this unit is how exactly we measure GDP. So GDP, which is gross domestic product, has sort of a 5-part definition. And so the way I think about it is, okay, it's the market value, so it's how much we sold it for in the market, of final goods and services, newly produced, within a country in a given year. So you need to know this 5-part definition for GDP because things like used cars are not going to be included in GDP of this year. Things like intermediate goods won't be included. If I sell this not in the market, but if I sell it, I don't know, like to my neighbor and he pays me in cash, that's not going to be included in GDP. So things like if you babysit for your neighbor, your babysitting generally, if it's in cash, is not part of the US GDP. And it's got to be within a country in a given year. Along with how we measure GDP is something that we call a circular flow diagram. And a circular flow diagram just means sort of how both money and goods and services are flowing in this economy. And so I'm just going to make it a little simple here. And what's happening is you've got households and firms. What households are going to do is they're going to buy things from firms, right? You go to Walmart and you buy stuff. So you are going to have consumption from those firms, and you are going to send your labor and your capital to those firms. In return, the firms are going to pay you a wage, a rent, and some profits if you own those firms, and they're going to sell you goods and services. Now, both firms and households are going to send taxes to the government. What taxes are going to do is they're going to be turned around by the government, and government is going to spend. They're either going to send households transfer payments, or they're going to give money to firms for things like government projects like roads and such things like that. There are 3 ways that we can measure GDP. They're called the expenditure approach, the income approach, and the product approach. You don't need to actually know how to calculate that for the AP exam. All you need to know is that there are 3 ways to calculate GDP. You should get the same answer no matter which way you calculate them. And now for the final part of Unit 2, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about inflation. So remember that inflation is just basically the change in the price level. So I can calculate inflation if I take the price in new, or the price this year, minus the price last year, divided by the price last year, multiply it by 100%. So for example, if the price of something was $105 this year, but $100 last year, inflation on that good is 5%. We can measure this inflation in different ways. This is called the Consumer Price Index, in which the US government literally sends people into grocery stores about once a month. They make them buy the same cart of goods, and they ask how much that cart of goods was worth, how much they had to spend to get that basket. GDP deflator is another one. Again, you don't actually need to know how to calculate these. You just need to know generally what they are. The big thing for us is that real GDP is just going to be nominal GDP divided by 1 plus inflation. So that's how you can take out inflation from nominal GDP and get real GDP in order to sort of compare lemonades to lemonades instead of revenue from lemonade to revenue of lemonade, to compare how much your GDP actually changed as opposed to your nominal GDP, which includes inflation. So again, this is just a real basic, a real quick review of Unit 2. If this video is helpful, comment below which unit I should do next. And as always, if this video or these videos in general helping you out, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time for another case of econ struggles.